What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here with a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for June the 13th of 2019. Of course, as always, I do hope this episode finds you well, and if you are brand new to the show, this is a daily gaming news podcast hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, right here live on twitch.tv/Samuel Adams. Now, if you didn't catch the show live, or you don't want to catch the show live, because 7 a.m., that's a cursed time period. Make no mistake, you can always watch it on youtube.com/Samuel Adams Media or podcast services around the world, including Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google, whatever you might use. You can probably find it there. Of course, E3 2019 is winding down, so the news is winding down a bit as well. It has been a jam-packed few days, but today we have The Witcher 3 officially selling more than 20 million copies, and the rest of the series not too shabby either, believe it or not. In addition to that, Epic Games has acquired a video chat platform. We'll talk about what that could mean for the future of group communication in gaming, specifically on the Epic Games Store, the Epic Launcher, and maybe even in Fortnite. Netflix is making a Pokemon Go style Stranger Things game. Then we return to some more E3 discussions because Pete Hines from Bethesda said E3 needs to be something all of us support, and of course all of us being the rest of the entities at the show. We're talking Sony, Microsoft, etc., and that is a big statement to make. Then we follow up on the Dr. Disrespect situation. Of course, he was banned from Twitch for live streaming in a bathroom. Now he has been banned from E3, and to round out the show, I've got the best controller you've ever seen to play a video game with. It looks a little rough. We'll talk more about what that means here in just a couple of moments. But again, if you are brand new to the show, welcome in, and I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories. The Witcher 3 has sold more than 20 million copies. Everybody wants Big Geralt. The Witcher 3 is making its way over to Switch, which is neat, but not really in our wheelhouse, they say at PC Gamer. Of course, as you would expect from PC Gamer. But accompanying the news of the port are sales figures for the series as a whole, as well as the third installment. Not surprisingly, they are quite high. 40 million copies of the series have been sold, which started in 2007 with an ambitious but incredibly buggy RPG built using a modified version of the engine from Neverwinter Nights, though you would never know if you looked at it. The Witcher 3 is by far the most successful of the trilogy, apparently accounting for more than half of the series' sales. That puts it at over 20 million, an astronomical number for one game. It's a lot, but The Witcher 3 doesn't even scrape into the top 10 best-selling games, and it probably doesn't make it into the top 20 either. Minecraft, PUBG, and GTA 5 are all far above it, with the first two both selling more than 100 million copies. As for RPGs, Skyrim, Diablo 3, and various Pokemon games still have sold more. And of course, they go in to talk more about their coverage of The Witcher 3 that has happened in the past, but again, 20 million copies of The Witcher 3 has been sold, at least. There could be many more than that. We just have the general schematic figures, but overall, I want to point out that they kind of are dogging on The Witcher 3 a bit here. You have Skyrim, Diablo 3, other big Pokemon games selling more. But think about that name recognition. I mean, before The Witcher 3, not a ton of people were really into The Witcher. That was probably the most childish way I could have said that, but you understand the sentiment. These are all much bigger games. The Elder Scrolls has been around for a much longer period of time. Skyrim, that was one of the biggest games ever. It still remains to this day. Diablo, the same kind of way. Pokemon, of course it's going to sell more. But considering the name recognition and the rise to fame of The Witcher, it is actually doing fairly well in the grand scheme of things. Now, I will say, I am sure that more copies are going to be sold when the game does come out on the Switch. Of course, that was announced at E3 2019 during the Nintendo Direct. And it was very shocking. Now, the game itself will not run at an incredibly high level of quality like you are used to on a PS4 or a PC or an Xbox One X, whatever you might use. Instead, it's going to be running at 540p in handheld mode, and the textures pretty much look like butter. But it still is The Witcher 3, all of its DLC, and I mean every little bit of it, running on a Nintendo Switch. So hey, it's more of a carnival sideshow act than anything at all. But again, if you do want to pick up The Witcher 3, you can join over 20 million people that have already experienced the world that is there. But Epic Games has acquired a video chat platform, Houseparty. Let's talk more about that. Fortnite maker Epic Games has acquired social network Houseparty. I believe I said that correctly. Synchronous? Yeah, I said that. Fortnite maker Epic Games has acquired synchronous social network Houseparty for an undisclosed fee. Launched back in 2016, Houseparty lets users quickly join group or one-on-one video chats with their friends and is currently available for iOS, macOS, Android, and Chrome. The app was primarily designed for teens and young adults keen on social media but who might not be ready for a large-scale platform such as Facebook. It's unclear what Epic plans to do with the service, with company founder and chief executive Tim Sweeney simply explaining the two companies will collaborate to build even more fun, shared experiences than what could be achieved alone. Of course, it is not hard to imagine how a social network built around the notion of group video chat and one aimed squarely at teens and young adults might prove to be a useful acquisition for the Fortnite creator, and perhaps we will see Epic use the platform to connect its millions of players in the near future. So the question is, what is Epic going to do with Houseparty, this video streaming platform? And if I had to guess, I would say they're going to be getting into the Discord competition. That is a big possibility. Of course, Discord pretty much killed TeamSpeak and any other kind of alternative gamers tended to use for their online communication. With Epic Games getting in on online storefronts, as you saw with the Epic Games launcher and the Epic Games Store, it makes sense for them to branch out and try new things and go for other parts of the video game industry. And to go for the communication side of it, it's a relatively wide open field. Again, we have a repeat of what happened with essentially TeamSpeak and a couple of the other communication platforms. There is now a monopoly completely and totally controlled by Discord, 9 times out of 10. And so whenever you have that, there is, plentiful amount of potential for a competitor to come in and really make a big wave. Now, with that being said, Discord does everything right. There is no reason for me to try another platform, but considering this specific chat platform is focused on video, that is a game changer because that could really present a different kind of approach to online communication while gaming or just in general, hanging out with friends online. So we will see what Epic Games does with this, but getting into video is a dangerous field. Of course, 2019, it's weird to begin with. The world is a strange place, but to introduce a video chat platform to a group of people that are primarily between the ages of, I would say, 10 and 16, whenever we're talking about Fortnite specifically, that gets to be a little bit iffy. If you're over the age of 16 and you play Fortnite, I apologize, I understand. I was one of you as well. You know what I mean. So anyways, we will see what happens with Houseparty, but overall, a big deal for Epic to be going after yet another section of the video game industry. But if you are a fan of Stranger Things and Pokemon Go, then boy do I have good news for you. There is a Pokemon Go styled Stranger Things game apparently in development, and it is launching soon. In addition to the Dark Crystal game, Netflix has announced 2 more games, both based on Stranger Things, and teased a Fortnite Stranger Things collaboration, presumably timed for when the new series airs on July the 4th. You've probably already seen the Stranger Things Scoops Ahoy ice cream shop in Fortnite's Mega Mall. Netflix said there is more to come soon. One of the new Stranger Things games, the most interesting, is a Pokemon Go style, location-based game known for now as Stranger Things mobile game for Android and iOS devices. In theory, it's a good fit. The game revolves around the Upside Down and how it's hidden all around you in your day-to-day life, a central theme in the Stranger Things TV show. You will apparently have to work together with friends to overcome the evils escaping from there. The Stranger Things mobile game is due next year and is being made by Next Games, the studio behind Walking Dead location-based game Our World. The other game, Stranger Things 3 The Game, looks a bit ropey. It ties directly into the 3rd season of the TV show in a thematically old school, could be an SNES game kind of way. It's an isometric action-adventure with local co-op and 12 characters to play as from the show, and it is in development for everything: PC, Mac, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, Android, and iOS. It is due day and date with the new TV series on July the 4th, and of course you can find it in the Game Informer Netflix panel at E3 coverage if you did want to watch the official debut. But again, Stranger Things, a huge intellectual property in 2019, one of the biggest shows Netflix has ever done, and without a doubt a pretty ripe pasture, if you will. That was a weird way to say that for any kind of game idea. So, the Pokemon Go game, let's talk about that specifically. The Upside Down in the real world. That sounds very much so like a game that fits well into the world of AR technology, where you do have stuff like Pokemon Go, where you walk around and find monsters, you go around and you find these demons, as you find in Stranger Things. I believe that's what we have in Stranger Things, demogorgons and whatnot. But it sounds like a good idea. Of course, who knows if it actually will pan out or be a worldwide sensation, but I can tell you that the traditional Stranger Things games that have come out in the past have been fun little quirky adventures, and of course we are getting the Stranger Things 3 the game as well, so it looks like a continuation of that little line. But we will see what happens with the Pokemon Go Stranger Things mobile game when it launches in just a couple of months, if I had to guess, because again, we only have a short period of time until the next season of Stranger Things does launch, and that is without a doubt the best time to release any kind of news about a Switch, Xbox One, PS4, Mac, PC, Android, and iOS game, as well as a Pokemon Go kind of iteration of a Stranger Things experience. However, let's talk more about E3. Because, as we all know, PlayStation had no showing at the official press conference lineup this year. Of course, traditionally they have a big, debut of their biggest games, a big highlight reel, if you will, of what's coming over the next year. We didn't really see that at E3 2019. And so Bethesda's Pete Hines says E3 needs to be something all of us support. The Bethesda executive calls for the industry to decide the future look of E3 and to back it. Bethesda believes E3 is a really important event for the video game industry, and it has called upon fellow publishers to unite it to secure its future. This has been a challenging year for the Los Angeles Expo. EA has once again stepped its own event away. Let me start over. Bethesda believes E3 is a really important event for the games industry, and it has called upon its fellow publishers to unite to secure its future. This has been a challenging year for the Los Angeles Expo. EA has once again staged its own event away from the main show, while Activision Blizzard has decided against a large presence. The biggest loss, however, is PlayStation, which did not attend in any capacity. Yet, it remains a popular week for consumers, and this year brought some major announcements and game reveals. Pete Hines, Senior Vice President of Global Marketing and Communications at Bethesda, is aware that there are differing views on what E3 should be, but he says the industry needs to get together to decide its future and then back it. I think it's a really important show for our industry, he tells GamesIndustry.biz. I think there needs to be a lot of discussion between all of the companies on how this looks going forward. Part of my thing is, if we are going to do it as an industry, then we need to be into it. We can't have everybody deciding to go off in their own little directions to do this or that. I think folks need to be here, they need to participate. If we have to change the size or scope of that, okay, but I want it to be something that all of us, as an industry, get together and support, and have it be something that's positive and sustainable. It is not a very specific answer, but I don't think I'm the guy to solve what it should be either. I do just want us to figure out a way for us to walk together in a way that achieves everybody's objectives as best as possible. Hines continues, we are the greatest form of entertainment on the planet. It's a great chance to put a spotlight on a great industry. We should not underestimate the importance of that. We are bigger than the sum of our parts when we come together for something like E3. And of course, they have a full interview with Pete Hines over there on GamesIndustry.biz, but essentially, the Bethesda executive calling for all companies to come together and figure out the future of E3. And I will say, this comes in the wake of a lot of people saying this E3 feels particularly empty. And that makes sense because, again, Activision Blizzard scaling back support, PlayStation not attending the show at all. Big news for those that have been going to E3 or even paying attention to E3 for 10 plus years, because it's traditionally been the one time of year whenever there is a pinnacle, whenever we all go to the summit, when we recede to the trenches. We go somewhere and we talk about the future of video games. That still happened this year, but more so in an online capacity than anything. E3, in my opinion, happened for 2019 on Twitter. That's pretty much the takeaway from this. Of course, there still were big announcements at stuff like the Xbox conference, at the Bethesda conference, at the Nintendo Direct, but again, the Nintendo Direct completely and totally online, not something that was actually held at the show. Now, Nintendo still has a presence at E3, that is still a thing that is happening, but at the same time, it's just a changing demographic, and that's really what it comes down to. We don't need E3 anymore, necessarily. Now, I love the idea of everybody coming together and hosting this event, but the actual necessity, the material value for marketing a game or a slew of games at E3 is not there anymore. Back whenever E3 first came about, everybody needed an opportunity in the gaming industry to come together and show off what they had been working on, to market their game, to reach out to the consumers. And in a world where we are all constantly connected and where leaks come out before initial announcements come out, we don't need to come together on a year-to-year basis to show off what's been worked on. Chances are people will know what's been worked on before you even mention what you've been working on. That's really what it comes down to. And so, will E3 be around in 5 years? Potentially. 10 years? I think that's a bit of a stretch. It just is a relic of an age that has gone. That's what E3 has become. Now, I am all for flipping it around and making it something that, as Pete Hines says, all companies get on board with, but make it into a fan experience, as they have been over the past few years since they have allowed the general public back into the show. That makes sense to me because that allows people that have a passion for gaming to unite, to pay out the ass, to come to LA and play the biggest games, to talk to the biggest heads in gaming, and to really just engulf themselves in the industry they are so passionate about. That makes sense, but to effectively use it as a tool to connect developers and publishers together, that's not something that is required anymore. We don't have to do that. But again, Pete Hines calling for the unification of all companies and the backing of some kind of future for E3. We will see what happens, but it looks like Dr. Disrespect will not be involved in any of them going forward, or at least not in E3 2019. Dr. Disrespect was banned from E3 for streaming inside a bathroom. Of course, this is a continuation of yesterday's story, but the plot thickens. Much like Thor in Avengers Endgame, popular Twitch streamer Guy Bob, better known by his streaming persona Dr. Disrespect, was banned from E3 after he streamed inside one of the convention's bathrooms on Tuesday afternoon. Bomb was at the show, live streaming his time on the convention floor. According to a tweet from Bomb announcing the stream was going live, this was his first ever IRL stream. Bomb spent most of the day talking to fans and interacting with developers on the show floor, but later in the day, Bomb and his camera person walked into one of the public bathrooms inside the LA Convention Center where E3 is hosted, while the cameraman was still live streaming. A few hours later, not Bethesda, they're not involved. Bomb's channel disappeared from Twitch, likely due to a ban levied against the channel. There are several sections of the Twitch community guidelines that his action could fall under. The most relevant of these is the section that states that streamers must respect all applicable local, national, and international laws while using the service. In the state of California, the use of a camera in a public bathroom in most circumstances violates the state's invasion of privacy laws set out by California State Penal Code 647, Section J, which says that people have a responsible expectation of privacy from such devices in places like a bathroom. Pause. You don't need a penal code to know not to film in a bathroom. That's weird as hell. Just moving on. This wasn't the only penalty the Bomb incurred thanks to his stream. In a statement to Kotaku, a representative of ESA, the company that runs E3, said that the organization has revoked Bomb's pass to the show. Effectively, this means the Bomb is banned from both E3 and Twitch entirely, and that is where the story stands as of today. Now, this was a pretty good move in my opinion. Of course, we see a lot of people joking on Twitter, myself included, about the entire situation, but at the same time, not something that should really be happening to begin with. You shouldn't have to have any kind of law that says, hey, you probably shouldn't be filming in this bathroom. If a dude's in there taking a leak, there's a dude in there taking a leak. Let's not put that online, especially whenever there is a kid in the background, which makes things even more complicated. So overall, of course, he's not going anywhere. It's not like Dr. Disrespect has been banned from Twitch entirely. He will be back within a matter of days, but some kind of punishment has to be held down, and I see that being the general topic of conversation as it stands right now. You have so many people that get at least temporarily banned, or even, a 30-day ban, let's even say, in the most extreme of circumstances. But I see a lot of people saying they are welcomed back by their communities with open arms. They're welcomed back with a flurry of donations and subs and bits, as if they are heroes returning from the trenches. That's what a ban means on Twitch 9 times out of 10, especially for the big streamers. And so, is that something that should be changed? Number one, and then how do you change it? That's pretty much the question that is being asked today. I don't know. You can always give me your 2 cents in the comment section down below. But unfortunately, that's the nature of Twitch in 2019. You have a lot of content that should not be being live streamed to begin with, stuff that is much worse than even live streaming in a bathroom. But on top of that, you have little to no way to legitimately punish anybody for doing wrong. That becomes a bit of a problem. But with all that being said, that's a stressful situation to deal with. How would you like a slime controller from Dragon Quest for the Nintendo Switch? This could be one of the most uncomfortable looking controllers that I've ever seen in my entire life. And also, it makes me very uncomfortable to diddle this slime. That's what I just said, diddle the slime. Just like they did with the PS4 back in 2017, Square Enix is releasing a Dragon Quest slime controller for the Nintendo Switch, and everything about it is perfect. That is arguable. Due out in September, it is a fully functioning Switch Pro controller with triggers, thumbsticks, motion controls, the works, only. It's also a giant rubber-coated blue slime from Dragon Quest, and it is ridiculously oversized for a control pad. It even includes a cardboard stand so you can dress up your Switch like a Dragon Quest treasure chest. And that, of course, is a picture of the entire situation right there. And honestly, this should just come with every Switch sold, they say at Kotaku. That, again, arguable. I probably wouldn't go for that. But here you can see the controller itself. Number one, hand model has very nice nails in this picture. I will also point that out. But it's essentially a spherical Nintendo Switch Pro controller with a giant point on top of it and a face of a slime. Cool idea. My first thought here, this is going to be so incredibly collectible in between 10 and 20 years, you wouldn't even believe. I don't know how many of these will be sold or even produced, but it just feels like something that you'll see in 15 years or 20 years whenever you're watching Pawn Stars and Chumley is taken over and he's like, yeah, I'll give you $50,000 for that. Like, that just feels like the kind of situation I've got here. So should you buy this? Well, if you're a Dragon Quest fan, maybe. If you're a collector, absolutely. But overall, if you do want one, again, coming soon to the Nintendo Switch. A pretty cool little concept, if I do say so myself. But that rounds out today's top gaming news. Of course, if you enjoyed this episode of Caffeinate, be sure to gift me. Be sure to give me a like down below if you are watching on the YouTube video. And of course, if you are brand new to the show, I do hope you did enjoy, and subscribe to stay up to date on the hottest gaming news. Follow on Twitch, all of that good stuff. Links are down below, regardless of where you are watching/listening. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.